What is up, YouTube? Well, I got a little bit of a start here on my new electrical system, and I have just had a little bit of a system failure. Well, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what I got rocking here. Okay, so the change that I made, I moved the solar and wind over to here. Is this warm? Barely. I have access to golf cart stuff. Okay. So I decided to incorporate some of the stuff that was left over from old carts, old chargers, etc., etc. Now, solar coming in, all the positives right here go into this. I think it's a 75 amp diode, if I'm not mistaken. That's one that I got from Windy Nation. I got a pair of them when I ordered them. Now this plate here and these two other diodes, these are off of a 36 volt battery charger for a golf cart. So one leg of the transformer comes in here, the other leg of the transformer comes in here. There's two 35 volt 10 amp legs that come off of a golf cart transformer, battery charging transformer. It's 120 volts in, and then there's 43.5 volts out times 2 at 10 amps each. So in order to give it a little bit smoother whatever, it goes through this. Goes through these two diodes, okay? And then this plate acts as a heatsink and a mounting place for all the shit. So, and there was also a hole here where the bolt for that charger would hook up to, and that would run to the positive side out on the thingy. Okay, I got a little bit of a lull on wind here, so I got to shut this down and disconnect the batteries. So I'm using that for my solar in for the moment, and then it comes out and then it ties into the positive side of the rectifier for the wind turbine, and then the other positive goes down to this breaker, which I just shut off, and then goes down to the battery bank, and then this side goes over to the solid state relay that I'm running. Negative side of the wind comes off of here, goes to the top, and then the solar, all of them were combined and go into this one, the negative side of the middle one. Okay, moving into the box. Oh, let's go back over here too. This is the negative to the battery bank. That's where this goes. Okay, so the negative from the wind turbine comes in here, goes across through this shunt, down this bus bar. Negative side in from the solar comes in through this shunt, through this bus bar. This one is open. This one here is not connected to anything at this time. It's just an extra. So if I put a second turbine up, or I hook a battery charger up, or whatever the case may be. And then what it'll do is it'll come down this bus bar. Now this is all copper pipe. I'll get into how I did this in a minute. Copper pipe flattened out. It's a bus bar. These are tightened down. All three of the output sides of these shunts. They're 75 millivolt, all four of them. 75 millivolt, 100 amp. They're all four of these meters. They actually came with the meters. And then from this one, it jumps over to this side. So all of the incoming power negatives go basically directly into the battery. So I got wind, solar, empty or auxiliary, and then this is the battery bank. So when it comes down in, goes into the battery bank, I can see my wind, which is 0 because it's off, my solar, which is 0 because it's disconnected, the battery bank is disconnected, and then my output, or my using amperage, is right here, what the power that I'm using from the battery bank. Okay, so that's the reason why it comes in and goes to here. So it goes right to the battery bank, and then whatever I'm using comes through the battery bank, through the shunt and the solar and wind, so I could actually use that as well. Gets measured and then goes out through this wire temporarily, and then it ties into there, to the grid tie. the 10 to 30 volt 500 watt. And then this positive wire from this side of the breaker for the moment goes down around the box here. It's just temporarily hooked up because I'm testing. And then into this SSR, 40 amp solid state relay. It's a Magger, or a Madger. Here, I'll put the camera upside down so you can see that. There's that. You can probably see some discoloration right here. Well, I'm going to get into that in a minute. I'm going to do that nice and slow so not to make you dizzy. So it comes into the SSR and then out of the SSR into the grid tie inverter. And I have this float voltage set at 14 volts as per the manufacturer of these Xide batteries. And you can see that's my battery voltage. It's not charging, it's not discharging. Well, it is kind of discharging because it's on. But the reason for this video is because I hate these goddamn things. These SSRs, I do not like SSRs at all. Okay, I don't want to say that. Let me rephrase it. I don't like SSRs as much as I like mechanical relays. Okay? And I'm going to explain that. This grid tie inverter draws about 30 amps at 14 volts. And it outputs to the grid. You can see I'm outputting a little bit right now. Very little. It draws 30 volts across this. When this is on all day long, it barely gets warm. Barely gets warm. Doesn't even get warm. I have CPU thermal compound, non-conductive, behind this, and attached in between the heatsink and this SSR. Never had any problems until now. I was working in here, farting around, cleaning up a little bit, and I smelled the magic smoke. The magic smoke has come out of this. Okay? Just to give you an idea here, let me, okay, here's the solar. 30 amps of solar going into the batteries right now. You can see, look at it. Charge is climbing very quickly. This SSR is fried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out this. There, I'm bypassing the SSR, and you can see there's the amperage going into the grid tie inverter. Almost 30 amps at this moment. And the voltage is dropping. I'm down to 14 volts. It's still not enough to... Yeah, see? Oh, come on, you fucker. So even at that voltage, that amperage output, see, I'm charging at about 29 amps, no wind, and I'm discharging at about 26 amps. So I'm putting in more than I'm using. Okay, so now I just took the wrench out of play. I'm going to disconnect the battery bank by opening that. Okay, so the SSR is cooked. I don't have another 40 amp one. I'm not using another 40 amp relay. I'm going back to my solid state, or my mechanical solenoid relay, because it's worked for me for how many years, and it works. Now, there's a lot of things people say about SSRs and mechanical relays. The pros and cons. Each one of them has a pro, each one of them has a con. There's voltage loss, amperage loss across an SSR. With the SSR, I was only pulling about maybe 22 amps from the system into the grid tie. When I was using the mechanical, the full current was going through it, like I just did with the bypassing of the wrench. Okay, so you have some power loss with an SSR, naturally, because it's an electronic component. It's got to use some power somewhere, and whatever. Now, you need to realize something. You can use whatever you want in your system. Whatever you feel like you want to use, go for it. You want to use solid state relays, you want to use mechanical relays, you want to use mechanical relays to turn on the solid state relays, whatever you want to do, however you want to set up your system, by all means, it's yours. Go for it. I prefer the mechanical type. And if you're worried about, you know, hitting your battery bank with the large spike in current, don't worry about it so much. Electric golf carts have been doing it for years, since the 60s, and they still use that same technology. Electric golf carts do not use these. They do not use these at all. They use these. In fact, they use, well, okay, the older golf carts, let's see, Club Car and Easy Go. I don't think Yamaha had an older electric cart. Their electric carts started back in the G2 series, which is like late 80s, early 90s. Easy Go has been doing it since the 70s. Club Car has been doing it since the late 70s, early 80s. And they used, let's see what this thing is, they used resistors. Club Car and Easy Go would use one set of 3 resistors and 5 solenoids, 36 volt solenoids. And what they would do is when you step on the gas pedal or the accelerator, solenoid 1 would turn on, which would turn on the system. Solenoid 2, okay, so when solenoid 1 turns on, the power goes through solenoid 1 and through all of the resistors, so you basically have no speed. Cart doesn't move. Then as you progressively press down on the pedal, solenoid number 2 will turn on, and now you'll start getting some movement. Solenoid 3 turns on, you bypass the first coil, so power is only going through coil 1 and 2, and then through the rest of the solenoids. Step on it even more, solenoid 4 comes on, and you're only going through 1 coil. The first coil is the only one that's causing a resistive load, and then it's bypassing 2 and 3. And then you push the pedal all the way down, all 5 solenoids are on, and it bypasses all of these resistor coils, and it's straight from the battery bank, straight to the motor, the electric motor. There's nothing in between. It's basically they're series wound DC 36 volt motors, and they're direct. It's direct. There's nothing in between the batteries and the motors. So you slam them on, I mean, that's 300 amps instantaneously. So there you go. And I'll show you. Hold on one second. There you go. Here is precisely what I was talking about. Here is a 1985. The 2 numbers after the A. That's the last 2 digits of the year. 1985 Club Car, DS, 36 volt. Here's the resistors and here's the solenoids I was telling you about, all 5 of them. All 5 solenoids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 36 volt mechanical solenoids. Okay? So you step on the pedal, and here's the micro switches are in this box. Right here. In this box there are 5 micro switches. Oh, I can't get that cover off. Oh, that's on there pretty good. Okay, this is an old cart. It's destined to the scrapyard. The aluminum is falling apart. It's rotted out. There's cracks and everything everywhere, so it's gone. I just have to strip down the copper and everything and get the plastics off. So you step on the pedal. You can here, listen. Hear those micro switches in that box? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First one turns on this one. Okay, this solenoid turns on, and because they're off, the power comes from this white wire into this post, and then it has to go through this coil, and then through this coil, and then through this coil, and then finally this solenoid is the power on system solenoid. This is the power solenoid, the system power solenoid. Okay, this one here. Then when you hit number 2, it lights this one up. Okay, so now your power is going through this white wire, through these coils. It's at this solenoid, and because it's on, it's a normally open circuit. And when you close it, turn it on, it's closed. Power goes through this bus bar, which is a copper bus bar, into this solenoid, since this one's on, and then directly directly into the series wound motor. Okay? So it goes through this white wire right into the motor. So, then what'll happen next is you want to go a little faster. So you're going through all 3 coils. These things get glowing red hot. These coils. These coils draw 300 amps when you're only operating solenoid number 2. Okay, so you go a little faster. Solenoid number 3 closes. So you're not using this one now. Now instead it's going through the white wire, through coil 1, through coil 2. This solenoid is closed. So it jumps across to the bus bar, straight to the motor. This solenoid is no longer, or this coil rather, is no longer active. Press the pedal down even farther, you activate solenoid number 4. And now you're going through just 1 resistor coil. So this one gets extremely hot and it glows bright red. So you got power going through here, up through resistor coil, right through closed solenoid, right down the bus bar into the white wire. And then when you finally slam the pedal to the floor, you're going through the white wire, right across the bus bar and straight through. As you press the pedal down farther and farther, these solenoids stay on. These are 36 volt solenoids. Okay, so here, see if we can get some information on there. 36 volt solenoid. Okay. Yeah, let's see what this label says here. These are actually original club car solenoids. Okay. So there you go. This is all number 6 wire through the entire thing. And they used this all the way up until the late 80s. From 82, I believe, all the way up until 89, I want to say. And then they went to solid state controllers. Okay. Okay. Now here is a 92 Yamaha. This is okay, there's a Yamaha DC series wound GE motor. Okay. 36 volt. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And look at there. There is a 300 amp mechanical relay. Now this one has a solid state controller. That's right here. All the wiring connections are on the bottom, so I can't show you them, but basically this activates the solid state relay, and this relay activates the solid state controller, and that's what controls the speed of the motor. So instead of doing it mechanically, it does it electronically. But these are still used in golf carts today. So being that that's the case, wow, it is really windy out there today. So being that's the case, that's just to give you an idea now of my feelings on these things. This thing popped. The smoke was let out of it. It doesn't work anymore. It's fried. It's rated at 40 amps. It never got hot, like I said earlier. It was always just like barely warm. I have a fan on it right there. 24 volt fan, so the RPMs are low. But it still never got hot. Never had any problems with the mechanicals. So that's a reason why I don't buy into the solid state versus mechanical relay nonsense where you're slamming your batteries or whatever with high current all at once. Now granted, if you are using a resistive load as a dump load, then by all means use the solid state relays if you're using a controller like this one that'll allow it to rapidly pulse. As far as these go, since I'm using these as my dump load, I'll use the mechanical relay because it stays on for a long period of time and it doesn't draw 30 amps all at once. It ramps up to 30 amps and it starts at 0. The arcing that happens inside there is only when it disconnects. And so far it's been working pretty flawlessly, so I'm not really that concerned about it. Let's turn the turbine on, see what kind of power we get. We got like a 20-mile-an-hour wind today. Well, right now we don't, but right now it's probably very light. But anyway, I gotta disconnect all this stuff because I have to change that out now. But that's my argument for that. Like I said, I'm going back to the solid or the mechanical relay, eliminating this. It's popped. If you're using something like this as your dump load, then yes, you should use one of these and put it on the downstream side of it so your load is not that much on the relay itself. You don't want to send that entire large amount of current through that. You want that to be on the downstream side of your current. Now you got a sneak peek of something I didn't want to show you yet, but I had to because not everybody, but I've been getting people telling me I got to get rid of the mechanical relay, and I'm not buying that. Not buying it at all because of my experience with working on golf carts. They use them. I mean, here's a 2015. It's a 48-volt cart. There's 8 6-volt batteries in it. And, well, I don't know if you can see it right here. Let's see if we can. See that right there? That is a mechanical relay. That's a 48-volt, 450 amp mechanical relay. Because this card is capable, this is all number 4 wire, all of it. This card is capable of producing almost 500 amps. Peak 500, a constant 400. And it does too, I've measured it. I've put my clamp meter on this negative side, and when it's climbing a hill with 4 passengers, it'll pull about 400, 395. But yeah, that's still a lot of power. That's a lot of power under your ass. But okay, so there's my little touch on that. So just so you know. Any questions? Let me know. Comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like, favorite, blah blah blah. You know the YouTube thing. So now I got to change this out and turn my system back on. I actually got to get a bigger load. I have a bunch of these. They don't make them anymore. It's just nickel iron wire, I believe. That's the resistive load stuff. So you have to get the really big 1/8 inch, 3/16 inch thick stuff. Come on, camera. You can see that there is pretty heavy duty. I got a bunch of them. Because those carts get decommissioned. And these make really good dump loads. But I'm also going to be changing my system up here a little bit with my dump load. I'm going to... See, I have a parts washer over here. A heated parts washer. It's got a 120 volt water heater element in it. I'm going to get a DC one and put it in there. And my dump from this will go into that. And when the water reaches 110 degrees, it'll turn that off with the thermostat, and I'll have it dump into there, so I'm not totally wasting. So basically, we'll still be able to heat that for free, because that uses 1500 watts. I don't leave it on. I'll turn it on a couple hours before I need it, and then shut it off when I'm done, because I don't use it that often. But there you go. That's my my update on this. Oh, I didn't explain the copper tubing. This is 3/8 soft copper tubing with 1/4 inch copper tubing inside of it. The soft stuff, that really soft, flexible copper tubing. That's all these are. But the reason I did that is because it's nice and rigid. It'll hold itself up. I don't have to drill into the back. And then on my panel here, I'm going to have all my amp meters. I got my wind turbine, solar panel. This will be my auxiliary And this would be my discharge, my battery bank, discharge amps, and volts. And then on this side I'll have wind turbine volts, solar panel volts, auxiliary volts, battery bank voltage. So it'll be a real neat setup. I'm going to incorporate this in here. And I'll probably, this thing here will get mounted back in here too, like somewhere like right here or something. So that way it's, or probably like this. I like the upside down idea. Oh, I'm gonna drop it like this or something, or maybe even like this. I don't know, haven't figured it out yet. It might go over here somewhere where it's not near the negative bus bars. I was gonna get some copper bus bars, but it's so expensive and you can't bend it like you can copper. And that's what this is here. This is just flattened out. And I drilled 5/16 holes for it to accept this. The bolts are gonna get changed out to brass bolts. I got 5/16 brass bolts coming for this. And if you remember, my heatsink for the solar panels was this. I actually cut this down, so now it's only for this thing. This has thermal paste underneath it as well. Anywhere there's metal on metal contact that needs heat transference, I use CPU thermal compound. Non-conductive thermal compound. It's safer. But alright, that's it guys. I just wanted to show you that. Don't like these. You can like them, that's fine. I'm not telling you not to buy them. I'm not telling you to not use them. I'm just saying why I don't like them and why I don't like using them. That's the third one that I burned out. That never got hot. It's not even warm. This heatsink never gets warm. It never got warm. Even when it was 80 degrees in here, this thing never got warm. It was warm to the touch, but like, it wasn't hot where you couldn't just hold your hand on it. This thing, that's going back in the system. Alright guys, thank you.